Young Russians tell us about a war few wanted and how the sanctions are affecting their lives. Since Russia invaded Ukraine on February 24, an outcry has arisen around the world. On March 2, the UN voted overwhelmingly to approve a resolution demanding the end of the invasion, with only 5 countries opposing: Russia, Belarus, North Korea, Eritrea, and Syria. As the war rages on, thousands have been killed according to Ukrainian authorities and many more injured. In response, the US, EU, UK and other countries have leveled sanctions, both general and targeted, and doors have closed to Russians around the world, from research institutions to sporting events, in protest at Russia's invasion. Sanctions have targeted banks, oil refineries, military and luxury product exports, as well as members of the Russian regime and oligarchs with close ties to the Kremlin. Companies, too, have closed their doors in Russia, including fast food giant McDonald's, which has temporarily shut its roughly 850 outlets. Surveys have suggested that the majority of Russians support the invasion. But it is difficult to determine how reliable these surveys are, in light of new crackdowns on free speech and dissent in Russia, where even the use of the word war to describe the invasion is now a crime. In the meantime, sanctions affect every Russian citizen in their daily lives, both those who support and those who oppose the war, those at home and those abroad. Anna, 22, Moscow: none of us wanted this war. I'm doing okay, but the whole situation is quite tough. Literally, all of my friends and me are shocked. None of us wanted this war, and we stand in opposition to Russian President Vladimir Putin's actions. But we have no right to express our position. At demonstrations, people are detained for several days or fined. Now, any anti-war speech can result in up to 15 years of imprisonment. Some of my friends are leaving the country right now, and I understand them. Russian authorities want to declare Meta, which owns Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, extremist. All those platforms will stop working in Russia, but I hope that with a VPN, it will be possible to continue using them. I deleted some of my messages because the police check social media chats on public transportation. In addition, the police recently searched the flat of a close friend of mine and then put her under house arrest for 2 months. I was very frightened. She had been putting up posters that said "No to War" around the city. The investigation is ongoing, but she is fine. But the whole situation is awful, of course. The situation is exacerbated by the fact that the older generation is drowning in propaganda and believes that Putin's actions are justified. It is surreal. I've already stopped communicating with my father and grandfather for a while. Now, I'm very encouraged by the fact that the world understands that the Russian people did not choose this war, that instead it was started by a president who lives in some absurd reality of his own. And if I am not imprisoned soon for speaking out against war, I want to try, together with like-minded people, to do everything I can to give our country hope for a peaceful future. Yana, 25, Moscow: it feels like we don't have any control. When I think about the conflict, I feel anxious, sad, and frustrated. Mostly because I don't understand how anyone could take this step, to send people to fight, to kill others. It's scary. On one hand, it's affected everyone, psychologically, economically, and in many other ways. And on the other hand, I understand that we could be hurt if we did something to try and change it. It feels like we don't have any control. Petitions and protests are forbidden. People are arrested for even walking around the area where a protest was scheduled. Right now, we can see that the situation is changing every day, and we're trying to figure out things like, how can we pay for foreign goods if the bank doesn't work? Or, what are we going to do with these publications, university admissions, and conferences that we've been rejected from because we are Russians? For example, we can't access Zoom and other specialized apps, like MATLAB, a programming and computing platform, and Coursera, an online course platform. Also, prices for some ordinary things, like cosmetics and food, have doubled, but in many cases, we have no alternative because there are no factories here that produce those products. I have a colleague in my laboratory who is a reviewer at an open-access science publisher. Now, those who want to publish and are affiliated with Russia have been asked to withhold applications, though they have not yet been officially withdrawn. The same thing with conferences. International events that take place in Moscow are all cancelled. It's affected me. I was planning to publish this month. And we're seeing products disappear from shelves: rice, flour, sugar, canned food, but I guess that's really just because of mass panic. I have never seen empty shelves in stores in the center before. Yesterday, I couldn't buy contact lenses because they ran out in the store where I would normally buy them. It seems like it will close. I saw employees removing shelves and emptying boxes, and the light was turned off. There aren't long lines at ATMs anymore, but we saw them a few days ago. Right now, we cannot withdraw other currencies at ATMs until September. I was thinking about leaving Russia, but there is the problem of money. Ticket prices have increased tenfold, and also, there's no one waiting for me over there. It's hard to differentiate global problems from everyday ones, as you can see. But to combat the anxiety, we try to remember our connections with friends and family and enjoy the spring weather. Tatiana, 28, from Moscow, currently in Germany. My parents can justify the war in their heads. I can't understand why. I'm okay, physically. Mentally, I'm a bit of a wreck, but I'm managing that. I moved to Germany last year to get my master's. However, my whole family is in Russia. I was planning to go see my family right about this time, but it doesn't seem possible anymore. I mean, there is probably a way to go to Russia, but almost zero way for me to come back to study, and as a new semester is coming, I'm not risking it. I have a residency permit right now, but it expires in May. Because of everything escalating so rapidly, I'm anxious about whether I'll have issues renewing it due to me being Russian. Due to Russian cards getting blocked and Russia being disconnected from SWIFT, the international payment system, my family had to send me some money in advance, just in case, and I had to withdraw it really quickly before I lost access to it. My family has already seen changes in prices. My sister was struggling to get baby products for my nephew because the prices skyrocketed. One of my brothers-in-law and my father will potentially lose their jobs because their businesses worked very closely with European businesses, and all of those lines of communication are closed off now. We have a distant relative who lives in southern Ukraine. Their town has been directly affected, so we are worried about them. Right now, they are relatively safe, but it's a constant worry for my family. We are all affected mentally, scared, and stressed. I've been struggling with my mental health for months, and everything that's happening is affecting that a lot. I'm against the war, and most of my friends and people I know feel the same way. These are mostly people around my age with the same level of education. However, when it comes to family, I, unfortunately, do have a conflict with my parents. This has been pretty hard as we have very different views that I can't even really tell why they believe what they believe. It could be their Soviet past, or the government propaganda that has been poured out for so many years, or just that there is too much fear and anxiety to actually allow the thought that the world is different from what they expect. Regardless, I'm having a pretty hard time with it. Being far away from them helps because we try to prioritize keeping our relationship intact and caring for each other more than anything. Sometimes I can't help but try to convince them, which obviously doesn't work. For the record, they don't support the war in general, they do want it to stop, however, they can justify it in their head somehow. Kira *, 20, Moscow, I don't want to live in isolation here. It's true that all my favorite shops like H&M, Bershka, and P&B are closed. I'm a little bit upset because of this. However, I have my favorite Russian showrooms, so the spring collection will be great, too. I just bought an iPhone. It was 3 days before the inflation. It was rather cheap, but now I want to buy AirPods and they're really expensive. They were 7,000 rubles and now cost more than 14,000 rubles. My friend was going to be a trainee at an international magazine publisher, but they stopped working in Russia on his first day there. As for me, I'm involved in the sports industry. I'm sure you know about the FIV World Volleyball Championship 2022, which was planned in Russia. It won't be in Russia, now. It's like having your legs cut out from under you. It's shocking. How do you live without the thing you were living for? I got a government email saying that we had until March 14th to download all files from Instagram. After that, it wouldn't work. TikTok isn't available either. We have VK, a Russian substitute for Facebook, but it's not the same. I can't even look at the word Telegram anymore, it was on every story on Instagram. People were linking to new Telegram channels because Instagram is no longer working, saying, "Let's keep in touch," or "This is my last story, see you on TG." Most of my friends say that our government is awful. I don't support that view, but I do think we need some changes. There were rallies against the war. But the older generations are for our president. One of my friends is against our government while her grandmother supports them, and I know that's caused a quarrel between them. My feelings are mixed regarding the decision of our president. I want peace, but my grandmother thinks our military is needed to protect Russians in eastern Ukraine. Also, my neighbor is from western Ukraine. She supports our president, despite the fact that her whole family is still over there. When I hear it from Ukrainian people, I begin to doubt that our president's strategy is wrong. Maybe Putin and his people know more and it's really all justified. I hope so, and I hope they'll stop it soon. The situation in our economy isn't good today. Our president should care about us, about his people. What about my future? I don't want to live in isolation here. I really cannot understand why Russians don't have the right to eat in McDonald's. Of course, that may be a strange example, but I just mean those of us who are against war still suffer from it.